This is the Seth Mila Program.
Thank you so much for joining the program. I'm Seth Mila. I appreciate you giving us an opportunity to get together and having another bit of a conversation. When was the last time you watched your favorite news program, maybe scrolled through some social media feeds, or even, listened to the average talk radio program and thought to yourself, wow, I feel so encouraged now. I feel so hopeful about my life. My faith in humanity is restored. No? Hasn't happened in a while? Okay, I can't promise that today you're going to have that kind of reaction to the program, but we are going to focus on things that happened lately that are some good news. I look back to my childhood, and my memories of my mom were that she was this amazing woman of vast amounts of wisdom and things that she would say that would help me get through life. And one of the things that she would say is the sign of true sophistication in a person is their ability to find something good, even if it's small, in any situation. In any situation. Now, some of the situations I found myself as a young man, I kind of thought maybe she was insane, or maybe she had poured the Chardonnay just a little too heavy. But the thing is, I have come to understand, is that when you're feeling overwhelmed, as if, there's just nothing good going on, finding something, anything that is positive, it genuinely helps. Not kidding. It genuinely makes your outlook better. There are days when I start out simply being thankful that I have a roof, that I've got food and clean water, that I have a family that loves me, even though, let's be honest, I get on their nerves at times, but that's okay. They get on mine. It all works out. I find that if I focus that, hey, I've got a car that runs. I've got a good job. You see what I'm saying? These are the things that in the day-to-day we can very easily overlook and forget about how much we are blessed, how good we have life. And I know in this that your circumstance may be where you're arguing with me just a little bit. And it's like, Seth, there's nothing going on that's good in my life. You're the person I'm talking to. Okay? There is something that you can look at and see that there is good. Even if it's while you're out in public, you see somebody smile, you see a child playing, you see the sunlight. There's something good in everything that we attempt. So I just want to focus today on some good news, some of the things that may have happened that maybe didn't cross your mind, right? You haven't been made aware of. Listen, not only did I find that what my mom said was true, later on in life, it was actually reinforced by what I found in the Bible. Philippians 4:8 says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." It's really helpful. All you got to do is give it a try. It's not pie in the sky or stick your head in the sand and ignore the things that are happening in the world that are serious, that do concern us. It's when when you feel like, hold on, this is just too much. My brain's about ready to shut down. Find something that is good to think about. And so these are some of the stories we're going to talk about today. So the first thing right off the bat, the Trump accounts launched on Thursday, May 28th. This is where the administration put together tax advantaged investments for kids that were born between 2025 and 2028. The government will drop in $1,000 in order to support financial stability for future U.S. adults. I think July 4th is when the money actually drops into the account. But through that time, you can go online to the Internal Revenue Service. I think it's irs.gov, which normally, how often do you want to go to the IRS website? It says like, ooh, I'm going to be scrolling today and I want to go look at this and I want to go look at that. And, it'd be nice to stop by the IRS government website, wouldn't it? No? Yeah. Anyway, these so-called Trump accounts, they're actually good news. Now, hang on a second. Some of you are like, well, hang on. Many on both sides of the aisle, many in the financial world, they're saying these Trump accounts are as close to a straightforward win as far as government programs is concerned as it can get. They address a bipartisan situation. They are being rolled out very cleanly, and it could provide a tremendous upside. Okay, so let's take politics out of this situation. I don't care if you like Trump. I don't care if you hate Trump. That's not what this is about. It's not politics. This is money. Okay. Now, before I got into radio, I was a financial consultant. I had a small financial consulting firm, and I consider myself now to be a recovering financial advisor. So I look at this from a purely financial standpoint. That's why I think this is good news. If you did nothing with that money, right, the $1,000, but made sure that it was put into a long-term CD, right, you for as long as it can, then you roll over to the next one, roll over the next one. In 25 years, it would at least triple in value. And if the money is conservatively invested and grows at an average rate of return that you get like in the S&P 500, right? I'm not going to dive deep into the numbers and so forth because I have found that unless we're talking about your specific money, you start talking about interest rates and this, that, most people are like, and to be honest with you falling asleep during the conversation, not my intended purpose. But anyway, if you were to just invest that $1,000, not add anything else to it, but just invest that $1,000 and get the average rate of return that's happened in the S&P 500, the growth could be as much as $29,000. $29,000 for doing nothing. Now, some people are going to say, hey, man, that's just not enough money. Look at Elon Musk recently. He's a trillionaire. Look at all these people. Look, okay, maybe you're saying it's not enough, but look on the positive side. It's more than your child would have had. So try this. Be thankful. I don't know, just a suggestion. Now, for some of you that say, hey, the government shouldn't be handing out cash at all. I kind of agree. Okay. I'm not one for government handouts. I find that they usually cause more problems than they solve. But keep this in mind. The government is trying to reduce its financial burden of future generations by investing in this generation right now. And also keep in mind, look, you don't have to accept the money. You don't want it. You don't need it. You just are completely opposed to it. Fine. Write a check for $1,000 to the Treasury, send it in. I'm pretty sure they're not going to turn it down. Okay. Never have I ever written a check. The government came back to me and said, hold on a second. Never. Also, there's another bit of good news on the financial point, and I'll just hit this very, very quickly. I was reading that employers now are looking to hire more young employees for in-person work. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, job openings jumped by 731,000 in April of this year. That's the highest level in almost 2 years. So while landing that first job may still require a lot of applications and at least one really awkward networking event, couldn't stand those, there's growing evidence that graduates may actually be able to find a good job in person. So a little bit of both financial good news on the personal money side and looking toward jobs for maybe you have an adult child living at home. A lot of us do. I do. And one of the big concerns, getting a job. What was it like when you got your first job? Think about it for a second. What was your first job? Maybe that's a conversation we'll have sometime in the future, is talking about first jobs and what we learned from them and what we took from them going forward. So let's keep going. I got another here story for you. A woman by the name of Dira Jordan and her husband Sharon were forced off the road in rural British Columbia. A pickup truck crossed over the line, caused their vehicle to roll over. And I know what you're thinking. Weren't we talking about good news? Hang on. There's good news coming. Thankfully, the injuries were very, very minor. But amid all the chaos, their beloved Australian Shepherd, Daisy, disappeared. Look, I can't blame it. The truck rolls over. There's confusion. The dog's like, I'm out of here. So there's a quote from this article that I read. I've got to focus on for a second. The wife, Dira, right? She said, quote, "When the crashing and the rolling all stopped, all I could think about was Daisy, my dog, wasn't there." Hank, can we pause there for just one quick second? My wife and we had a very sweet dog named Ellie. She was a beagle mix, couch potato, snuggle bug, absolute garbage disposal when it came to eating, would eat anything, anywhere, anytime. That's also a whole nother conversation, and was clearly my wife's dog. Ellie loved my wife. Ellie, as soon as my wife came home, was wiggling and dancing and barking and so happy to see her. I would come home and Ellie would look up on the couch or from the couch and just look at me like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then lay back down. So even though my wife and Ellie, they were Ellie was my wife's dog and my wife was clearly Ellie's human. I am pretty sure they were basically inseparable, okay? But I'm pretty sure, follow with me here just for a second. Keep in mind, when Dira's accident happened, her first thought was, "Where's Daisy? Where's my dog?" I'm thinking, I'm hoping, I'm sure, I'm pretty sure, no, I'm 100% sure that the very first thought after an accident like this, should my wife and I and the dog be involved in, my wife's first thought would be, "Is my husband okay?" Then the dog. I'm pretty, I haven't had this conversation with my wife, but I'm hoping this is the case. Anyway, I start to go off on a tangent here. Let me get back to the good news of the story. After being treated at a local hospital and released, Dira immediately began searching for the dog Daisy. Husband, fine too. They all started searching for the pup. And I think they posted on social media that the dog was lost and what had happened. And this garnered a lot of attention. They had volunteers from the Central Okanagan Search and Rescue Organization. They learned about the accident, saw that Daisy was missing. They were inspired to help. Everybody got involved, and they spent hours looking through the area for the dog. Word spread throughout the community. Complete strangers came together in order to help in any way they possibly could. Volunteers searched the countryside. They brought out thermal imaging drones. A local resident started delivering meals and supplies to support the exhausted people that were searching for this dog. 96 hours passed. 96 hours passed. And you got to be thinking, at this point, they're probably thinking, Daisy's not coming home, right? They're probably thinking, if Daisy was hurt in the accident, maybe she's not coming back. Or if she did survive the accident, she's out in the woods, a dog out there in the wild. Things were looking grim. However, 96 hours, Daisy was found safe and sound and reunited with her family. In an interview, Dira said that she was just absolutely overwhelmed by the generosity of strangers who showed up with food and equipment and encouragement. And she said what began as an absolute frightening situation became an inspiring story of compassion and community and a happy reunion with her and the dog. And yes, the husband's fine too. We just got to keep throwing that in there because the article really didn't focus on if her husband was okay. Maybe I'm just being partial, right? But I love stories like this. And I've seen this in so many other circumstances where if there's a disaster or some kind of an accident or something, people join together and help. I'm reminded, let me share this real quick. I hadn't intended to share this with you, but it just came to my memory. A little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, really close to Christmas, a friend of mine, a colleague, coworker, his house caught fire and basically burned. I had just so much damage to the point where they were concerned that the house was just going to have to be demolished and started all over again. Immediately, as people found out that his house caught fire, there was a GoFundMe organization, a GoFundMe page started to help him with the cost of rebuilding. Yes, he had insurance, but as we all know, we've probably gone through circumstances. You know that the insurance coverage probably isn't going to cover all of the expenses. Within, 2, 3, 4 days, less than a week, I believe, there was tens of thousands of dollars raised for this man and his wife to help them get through the very difficult time. People were bringing them food and clothing. Some of the amazing things that happened in that story, people just were moved to help. They were moved to find a way to take from their abundance and help him and his wife, and he had a small farm, to help them get through the tragedy. Oh, and just so you know, a little bit of more good news. None of these animals at all were harmed in the fire. Last time I spoke with him, he's back up in Illinois. Last time I spoke with him, house is rebuilt, everybody's back in the new place, and things are going very, very well for him. And again, it's just one of those things that you look back on and go, that's awesome. There really is some good in a lot of people.
You've found the Seth Mila Program.
One of the tough things about being a parent, I found, was saying no to your child. Can I have some ice cream? No, you're going to ruin your dinner. Or no, it's not, saying no. It's been difficult for me as a parent. Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty good at it. I just may not like doing it. saying no to anybody has at times been a bit of a difficulty. But think about it, when you were a kid, you wanted some ice cream and your mom or dad said no. Maybe you were young enough or old enough, should I say, to be out in the world on your own and go up to an ice cream truck, but you didn't have any money. Well, how did that work out for you? Did you get the ice cream for free? Probably not. Well, there's an ice cream truck in Massachusetts that has kind of flipped the switch on that story. It's called Maddie's Ice Cream and More. It's a ice cream truck that's been given ice cream treats to families throughout what's known as the Gardner area. Recently, Madison, the owner, kind of got a little, popularity on the internet for doing something awesome. A little boy came up to the ice cream truck and asked for some ice cream, but he didn't have any money. All right. I mean, it's not like kids usually walk around with a lot of cash. One of the workers said, "I'm sorry, you can't have any ice cream if you don't have any money." Now, this is an important lesson to learn as a young kid. You can't just go up to anybody and say, "Hey, I want that," and expect to be given it free. The lesson of money and the value of money and the work you have to put in order to get the money, in order to get the ice cream that you want, that's a very valuable lesson. But also the lesson of kindness is very important too. The owner, Maddie, stepped up and she said, "Hey, she saw the kid walking away crying, and she told the workers, 'Hey, bring the kid back.' Then she prepared an ice cream for him, topped with whipped cream and sprinkles and all that kind of stuff, and handed it to the kid. And he was ecstatic, right? Absolutely ecstatic. She says her philosophy in regarding this is that she says, we don't want to turn kids away if they don't have any money. You want an ice cream from Maddie? Hey, you get an ice cream from Maddie. Okay, I'm not, this is Massachusetts, so maybe she wasn't, like from Jersey. Hey, you want ice cream? I got ice cream. No problem. Hey, have that. I'm taking poetic license. Anyway, of course, there was a video shared online with this. And the video said, no money, no problem. Kindness is always free. I like that. 8 million views the video online got. 8 million views. Not only that, but thousands of people responded to the video, sharing memories of the time of their own when they couldn't afford ice cream or, the little treats that they wanted as a kid. And they started getting donations. Viewers from all over the country, even around the world, began sending them donations to help cover the cost of a little bit of ice cream for kids. She said that the response had been so overwhelming that now Maddie says every child who visits her ice cream truck gets an ice cream for free. Now, I'm a kid at heart, right? Do I get ice cream? No. She says that Maddie, the owner of the ice cream truck, says she really hopes that this gesture encourages others to show kindness in their own communities. She has 3 daughters. She believes even the smallest act of generosity can create a brighter future. And there's something to that. We talk sometimes about how, gosh, we sure would like to make the world a better place, Well, can you step out your front door and immediately make the world a better place? If you can, please share with me. But I can't. I don't know if you know this or not, but world leaders have never contacted me and asked my advice on how to conduct their business. It doesn't happen. I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, I've clearly got all the answers to solve all the world's problems, right? Just ask my wife. She knows. So having a direct effect on the world, that's overwhelming. That's like hard to do, but you can have a direct impact on your household, the people that are around you by being kind. You can have an effect on your neighborhood by being kind, your community, your city, your state. See, you do for others. Remember that old commercial, I told someone and they told someone and then so on and so on and so on. I do believe in the ripple effect of being kind. You do something kind for someone and it may change their outlook. I have had, again, I'm going to share with you a real quick story. I was driving along and an individual cut me off in traffic. I mean, to where I hit the brakes or I may have hit them. And of course, me being the calm, quiet, respectful driver that I am, I immediately laid on the horn and I may have shouted a few things that I'm glad nobody else was in the car. I'm just saying. Okay. Here's what happened next that completely shocked me. The individual pulled over into the other lane that they had cut me off from and rolled down their window. And I thought, oh boy, here it comes. They apologized. They said, listen, man, I am so sorry I didn't see you. And I am so sorry that I cut you off. That blew me away. That changed my whole situation. I went from angry and frustrated to like, oh, wow, maybe I shouldn't have acted the way I did. I told him, hey, it's okay. Situations like that happen. I've done it. And away we went. Perfectly fine. I've had people smile and change my outlook for a day, right? Little things that we do in acts of kindness can be tremendous and have a ripple effect that they are now a little bit better than they were before they met you. Maybe the next interaction they have with someone else will make them better as well.
And now for something completely different.
And now it's time for
Random facts.
Remember when you were a kid and you were told, hey, you had to go take a nap? That wasn't really good news most of the time, was it? I hated it. I remember pitching a fit. Oh, I don't want to go take a nap. But now, as an adult, when you get to take a nap, it's pretty much pure luxury. So, the topic for our random facts is all about sleep. We humans are the only mammals that willingly delay sleep. Why do we do that? Why is it you're dead tired and you're thinking, man, I'm going to watch one more episode on Netflix, or I'm going to read one more little bit. I'm going to play this one more game. The next thing you know, it's an hour, 2 hours have gone by and your brain is going, please stop, please go to sleep. Animals have got it right, man. We're the only mammals that delay sleep. Everybody else is like, hey, I'm tired. Good night. Apparently, according to science, you can only dream about faces that you have already seen. So in that dream that you've had, and it's like, apparently, you can only dream about faces that you have already seen. I'm not 100% convinced that this is true. There's some weird things that happen with people having dreams about things that actually come true in the future. But you know what? We may talk about that in the near future as well as another topic. All right, number 3. 75% of people dream in color now. Before color TV was invented, only 15% of people dreamt in color. Do you dream in color, or are you pretty much black and white? I had a dream the other night that there was the vivid yellow. I don't remember what the dream was about, but there was yellow in the dream. I remember that very, very vividly. What the dream was about, I don't know. And why is it that it was, well, I guess TV has had a real, big impact on us. All right, number 4, the longest anyone has gone without sleep, 11 days. Listen, I struggle if I'm going like 18, 20 hours at a time without getting some sleep. I cannot imagine going 11 days. I think the longest I went on a road trip with a buddy of mine, I think 30 hours, maybe 32. And yes, I was a mess. They said by day 4, the person was hallucinating. No kidding. The Guinness Book of Records has since retired that category, the attempt, citing it's way too dangerous to attempt. Makes sense to me. All right, one more, last one. 16 hours without sleep is the same as being intoxicated. Going 16 hours without sleep is equivalent in reaction times and awareness as a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08, which in, I believe, all the states, that's the legal limit, right? And, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I've lost track of how many of those. It's supposed to be 5 random facts. 5. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5. Right. 16 hours of sleep is the same as being drunk. But because I'm confused, I'll give you one more as a bonus. Your brain stays half awake the first night somewhere new. That's why you get a kind of a rough night of sleep when you're somewhere new. When sleeping in an unfamiliar environment for the very first time, one hemisphere of the brain stays more alert than the other. They say it's a possible throwback to when we were, living in the wild and had to keep an eye out or an ear out or half our brain for the predators. I don't know if that's true, but it is an interesting fact.
This has been today's edition of
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Random facts.
You're listening to the Seth Mila Program.
All right, let's get back to the good news stories, shall we? That's what this conversation is all about. Earlier in the spring, a young man by the name of Jaden Cintron was working at a Chick-fil-A in North Carolina, and he made a rather unexpected discovery in the men's restroom, apparently lying on the floor. I know you're going, where are we going with this? 2 envelopes containing almost $10,000 in cash. Instead of keeping the money or wondering what he should do next, he immediately picked up the envelopes and turned them over to the restaurant's human resources team. The envelopes contained just over $9,300 in cash, and they belonged to a customer that had accidentally left them behind. Okay, as we did earlier, hold on. I have questions, okay? And maybe you do too. There was we moved here, and the moving team said we have to have either a cashier's check or a money order or cash for the move. And it was a chunk. It was a big chunk of cash or money. Being new in the area, I didn't have a bank account yet, so forget getting a cashier's check. No bank would say, you're not from around here, are you, boy? So I couldn't get a cashier's check. The best I could do was cash. Listen, it was in an envelope. I guarded that as like I was paranoid. I didn't let it out of my sight. I was nervous walking from the bank back to my car, and it was like, do I stop to get gas? No. Nothing. I made sure that envelope of cash did not get out of my sight. So, keeping in mind that that's how paranoid I was, what was going on that a guy has $9,300 in cash in a couple of envelopes. Why? Help me explain. Why would you take them into the bathroom and set them down on the floor? And then how do you forget about it? How do you forget about, oh, yeah, I wonder what I did with that $9,300. It was in this couple envelope. Did I put it over here? No, it's not over here. Oh, well, I'm having trouble comprehending how you just kind of let that slip your mind. Now, he did say he was at Chick-fil-A, and their sandwiches are seriously good, but not so good that I would completely, totally just forget about, oh, yeah, wonder what happened. So anyway, the good news, the grateful customer was contacted. They somehow figured out who it was. I would be interested to know that part of the story. How did you find out that was Guy? Maybe they came and said, hey, by the way, oops, while I love the chicken sandwiches, I do kind of want my cash back. The customer who had lost the money offered Jaden, who found it, a $500 reward. And Jaden initially said, yeah, no, it's just, I'm not looking for anything in return. I wanted to do the right thing. People around him said, hey, go ahead and take the reward. It's okay. And so he did. Jaden in an interview said that his faith played a huge role in his decision of what to do. Knowing how devastating it would be to lose that much money, he simply just wanted to make sure that it found its way back to the rightful owner. So, I thought about that. In the example that I shared with you when I had the cash to pay the movers, what would I have done had I lost that money? It truly would have been devastating because I didn't have another chunk of cash available just to make up for it. And maybe that's why I was so paranoid when I had it that I wouldn't even kind of take my hand off of it while I was driving home. When I got home, I made sure to put it in a very safe place and then remind myself, this is where I put the money. So what would you do if, for whatever reason, you had to have that kind of cash on you to do some kind of a transaction, whatever, and you lost it? I think Jaden really had the right perspective, like looking at it from the other person's point of view. Sure, I'm sure he could have done some wonderful things in his life and been quite benefited for $9,300 of found cash. But his heart, his faith, I don't think he could have. I really don't think he could have just walked away and said, yeah, I'm going to keep the money, and done it with a clear conscience. His faith helped him to think about the other person and how they would feel in the loss of the money more than himself and how he would feel in the gaining of the money. After I read this, I had the conversation with my daughter. I said, let's imagine for a moment we're driving down the road. I want to kind of see where her head was at. Maybe test to see how I'm doing as a parent. I said, we're driving down the road and a armored car hits a bump in front of us and a bag of money falls out of the armored car. And we stop and we go up to the bag and we look, we unzip it, and it's full of $100 bills. We got to estimate, man, that's got to be $1 million. That's, a big bag of cash. And I looked at it, I said, what would you do? And she said, well, Dad, if anything, you've taught me that you should lift with your legs. She was kidding. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so there you go. What would you do if you found $9,300 in an envelope? I'm pretty sure. I know you. We've had a conversation before. I think we're getting to know each other. I think you would turn it in, right? Right? Right. All right. Lastly, let's talk a couple stories for those of us who are car and space nerds. Are you a science nerd? Because I'm fascinated by science. And my family, especially my daughter, hates it when I talk in this voice. But you know what? I kind of like it. But I'm not going to do that the entire program. Recently, this is a little good news for the space industry. maybe more so for international flying, right? You have the opportunity to fly to Europe or some other place. Recently, last year, my wife and I took a trip to Italy. And, the flight over was 9 hours and the flight back 9 hours. That's a long time on an airplane. Supersonic flight hasn't been a thing since the tragic ending of the Concorde. And a lot of the reason that supersonic flight hasn't made a resurgence is nobody wants that loud sonic boom right over their head when the plane breaks the sound barrier. That's been the big barrier. So NASA has been working on that issue for quite a while. And the X-59, NASA's X-59 aircraft was flown recently and reached a top speed of Mach 1.1, 713 miles an hour, for those of you who have calculators at home. 81-minute flight. Flew from Edwards Air Force Base in California. It reached an altitude of about 43,000 feet. Here's the thing. The X-59 is designed not to have a big, loud sonic boom, but more of a thump. Just a little thump. Everybody's okay with a thump, right? The test pilot, this is another favorite part of my story here. The test pilot, his name is Jim Less, L-E-S-S, Jim Less. Guess what his call sign is? That's right, Clue. Clueless. Love it. Anyway, one other interesting thing here about it, the X-59, it's got this really long nose. That's part of the design to keep it from having a big sonic boom. It's really long nose to help it slip through the air quietly. Well, there's no forward-facing window. In the interview, he says he sits in the cockpit and he's got a series of video screens, big flat panel screens in front of him that with the technology recreates what is outside of the aircraft so he can see forward, but it's not a window, it's digital. Which, okay, for all of us who were told as kids by our parents, stop playing the video games, it'll ruin your brain, you'll never have anything good come from it. That's not exactly how my parents sounded, but it just occurred to me. Anyway, that maybe that's an argument for video games. You may learn how to fly supersonic aircraft. The reason this is good news is this is a test for this experimental aircraft. But the intention, NASA is saying, is to help develop the technology for the resurgence of supersonic aircraft, where you could fly to different locations in much, much less time. I don't know if I'm ever going to have an opportunity to fly in an aircraft like that. Buddy of mine did. He used to do a lot of business in Brussels, Belgium. And I think he flew from New York to Paris or England. Heathrow, I don't know. I don't remember. But there were a couple of times that the job that he was on paid for him to fly on the Concorde, which I was always fascinated by. But the reason I say I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, it's really expensive. I mean, it was really expensive then. I can only imagine the cost of what it would be now. But it is in the process, and they have every intention of taking the developments in this technology and these tests and incorporating it into commercial airliners so that maybe one day we'll have the opportunity to fly supersonic. Do you remember when Phil Collins played a concert in Europe and then hopped on the Concorde, flew to New York or to the States and did another concert in the same day because of that? Who knows? Anyway, I digress. Last but not least, for us car nerds, I'm kind of a car guy. I wouldn't consider myself to be a professional car guy, but I've just liked cars and motorcycles and stuff most of my life. I found a website called Curbside Classic. Curbside Classic. The reason I find it fascinating is it gives you the opportunity to share snapshots of the cars you grew up with. The one I was scrolling through, there's an old Pontiac Grand Torino. There's pictures of like Oldsmobiles and station wagons and cars that, you know, guys had and people had for their first cars and so forth. It's just a great way to kind of wander down memory lane for a little while. I was looking through the website and saw, you know, a couple of cars that my dad had, and it was just kind of nice to have those memories. My father had was it an Olds 98? It was a land yacht, huge thing. And this is the car my father taught me to drive in. Maybe it's not so much driving, maybe it was more, you know, navigating. You point the car in the right direction and hope you get there. Anyway, so there's a handful of good news stories for you to think about. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And I'm toying with the subject of our next conversation. I don't know if you've been following the whole UFO UAP phenomenon. I'm not going to take a lot of time here, but this is a subject that has fascinated me for years, and I'm considering the next time we get together of us kind of going down that rabbit trail. And the reason I say this is there's a lot more about this phenomenon that is coming to the mainstream focus. It used to be if you talked about UFOs, it's like, okay, Bubba, you saw flying saucer in the backyard, did you? Well, that's just fine. Why don't you sit down and be quiet? But there's a lot more of really interesting things that have come forward, not just from Bubba in the backyard with his can of beer watching lights in the sky, but from actual government websites, from government officials, from intelligence officers and naval pilots and so forth. I think I've just made my decision, don't you? I think the next time we get together and talk, unless I change my mind, it's going to be about the UAP and UFO phenomenon. Thank you for letting us have a little bit of time to have a conversation. I appreciate it, and I very much look forward to the next time we get together. If you have questions or comments regarding today's show, or perhaps you'd like to suggest a topic for us to explore in a future program, please email me at sethmilamedia@gmail.com. That's sethmilamedia@gmail.com. This program was sponsored in part by Audio Imaging Solutions, LLC. Your message professionally crafted and delivered. For professional voice work, go to audioimigingsolutions.com. That's audioimigingsolutions.com.